Some stars burst into Hollywood like an explosion, only to be consumed by scandal, addiction, or the relentless noise of the media. But Madeleine Stowe was unlike any of them. She was once the most captivating icon of the 1990s, a gaze sharp as a blade, capable of turning even the stillest moments into something that trembled with feeling, and a kind of radiance that not even Daniel Day-Lewis or Bruce Willis could overshadow when standing beside her. And yet, at the exact moment Hollywood believed it had found the perfect jewel of that decade, Madeleine Stowe vanished. A leading actress at the height of her power, more beautiful than ever, earning millions per role, suddenly slipped away from the screen without a sound. What makes a star at the peak of her career walk off the stage before Hollywood can even blink? No one abandons the spotlight without a reason. But what was that reason? And why was it never spoken of? Was Madeleine Stowe truly drama-free? Or have we simply never known where her drama actually began? Today, we revisit the rises, falls, and the real turning points in Madeleine Stowe's life to uncover the answer behind one of Hollywood's rare mysteries, the kind it never wanted to reveal. Madeleine Marie Stowe. Maura was born on August 18, 1958 in Los Angeles, right next to the heart of Hollywood. Yet her childhood had nothing to do with bright lights or glamour. She grew up in Eagle Rock, a working-class neighborhood where people worried more about rent and jobs than cinematic dreams. It was an ordinary environment, one that stood in stark contrast to the star she would eventually become. Her father, Robert Alfred Stowe, a civil engineer of Dutch-German-English descent, devoted his life to blueprints and construction sites. He was quiet, disciplined, and rarely expressed emotion. Her mother, Mara Mora Steinvorth, came from one of Costa Rica's prominent political families. Her great-great-uncle, Bruno Carranza, once served as president. The combination of her father's technical, structured background and her mother's political lineage meant Madeleine was raised in a home built on discipline, honor, and a strong sense of responsibility. As the eldest of 3 siblings, Madeleine displayed introversion early. While other children ran around outside, she spent hours at the piano or buried in books. It wasn't shyness or insecurity. It was a deliberate choice. She felt more at ease inside her own world than at the center of any crowd. What stands out is that at this stage, Madeleine had absolutely no intention of becoming an actress. She didn't dream of Hollywood, didn't chase fame, and saw music simply as a way to express emotion. Yet her ability to observe, listen, and communicate without words would later become the foundation of her acting, a style built more on eyes and emotion than on dialogue. Her childhood was peaceful enough that no one could have predicted it held the seed of a future star. There were no signs that the introverted girl who avoided attention would one day become a face Hollywood couldn't look away from. But sometimes, it's the quietest lives where fate hides its most unpredictable turns. Madeleine never chased the spotlight, but somehow the spotlight began making its way toward her. From the age of 10, Madeleine Stowe spent most of her time at the family piano under the guidance of Maestro Sergei Tarnavsky. He was the first person to recognize in her an extraordinary sensitivity to sound. Through Tarnavsky, Stowe learned discipline and meticulousness, qualities that would later become unmistakable signatures in every role she played. But everything changed in 1976. Shortly after what seemed like an ordinary lesson, Tarnavsky passed away at the age of 92. The sudden loss of the only teacher who truly understood her inner world left Madeleine feeling as though music was no longer a refuge. The piano, her sanctuary throughout childhood, suddenly felt empty. Ending her musical chapter, wasn't a rash decision, but an inevitable consequence when both inspiration and the person who nurtured it were gone. From there, Madeleine moved toward a different path. At 18, she enrolled in journalism and film studies at the University of Southern California, USC. At first, it was simply a safe choice, one she never imagined would become a defining turn in her life. During auditions and small performances at the Celebs Theater in Beverly Hills, her quiet, composed presence unexpectedly drew the attention of a talent agent. No noise, no publicity campaign. Madeleine only needed to show up. A few months later, she landed her first television role. In 1978, she appeared in Beretta, The Amazing Spider-Man, and then took on the role of Annie Crane, a blind painter in Little House on the Prairie. Though the roles were minor, each appearance made directors immediately remember her eyes. Before Hollywood saw Madeleine Stowe as an irreplaceable beauty, she was simply a face on television few people remembered. That lasted until Stakeout, 1987. No one expected this action comedy to gross over $100 million worldwide, and even fewer believed that an actress without a major launchpad could stand beside Richard Dreyfuss and Emilio Estevez, yet still pull every gaze toward herself. But Madeleine did exactly that. Her sharp yet quiet eyes, a beauty that never flaunted itself yet felt impossible to grasp, made audiences not just intrigued, they sensed her character was hiding something. That unreadable quality became Stowe's signature, and in that moment, Hollywood realized it had awakened something far deeper than ordinary acting. That success opened doors to Worth Winning, 1989, and Revenge, 1989. In Revenge, starring alongside Kevin Costner, didn't just cement Stowe's status, it revealed something Hollywood had only vaguely suspected. Madeleine was a catalyst. Any leading man beside her became instantly more dramatic. The interesting part is this. From that point on, filmmakers began crafting characters based on how men reacted to her presence, rather than letting her tell her own story. Then came The Two Jakes, 1990. Acting next to Jack Nicholson in a noir film, a world thick with psychology and secrets, most actresses of that era would have been swallowed whole. Madeleine wasn't. She did the opposite. The quieter she became, the more magnetic she was. Few noticed it at the time, but this was where the motif first appeared. The woman at the eye of the storm without owning the storm. That motif took its clearest form in Unlawful Entry, 1992. Playing a woman stalked and terrorized by a police officer, Stowe unintentionally defined a new Hollywood archetype. The fragile beauty with an uncanny resilience in the face of masculine violence. People came for her beauty, but stayed because something always felt unsaid beneath the surface. From here, Madeleine was no longer just a star. She became the psychological anchor of an entire genre. And then The Last of the Mohicans, 1992, pushed everything into another orbit. As Cora Munro, Madeleine needed only a few lines and a single, unforgettable gaze to stand toe-to-toe with Daniel Day-Lewis, an actor known for overwhelming intensity. The "Stay alive, I will find you" scene wasn't merely a cinematic classic. It turned Madeleine into one of the defining romantic icons of the 1990s. The paradox was this: the more audiences loved her, the more she was confined. Hollywood wanted Madeleine to forever remain the woman men would fight for, not the woman with a story of her own. The Last of the Mohicans didn't just turn Madeleine Stowe into a major star. Its success opened another door inside Hollywood, a place where beauty wasn't treated as a gift, but as a metric the industry used to measure a person's value. Right after the film, more scripts arrived. But Madeleine quickly noticed a shift in the way characters were being written for her. The questions that once revolved around inner life, what is she afraid of? What does she want? Slowly disappeared. In their place came notes about skin exposure, camera angles, and the quality of her gaze. The message was unmistakable. Hollywood wasn't interested in discovering who she really was. They only wanted to preserve the image of a beautiful woman. So beautiful, she didn't need dialogue, just presence. Madeleine turned down the requests that crossed her boundaries. She didn't make noise. She didn't criticize anyone. But her silence allowed her to see something she had never fully confronted. The more famous she became, the more repetitive her roles looked. Beautiful women who were pursued, threatened, possessed, as if their tragedies didn't come from life, but began right at the surface of their own bodies. That wasn't recognition. It was a reminder that Hollywood didn't just want an actress. It wanted a template it could replicate. And the moment she recognized that, not a failure, not a crisis, became the first stone in the path that would eventually lead to her departure. She refused a road where every answer had already been written, waiting only for her to step in. Then, just as Madeleine began to understand the cage quietly forming around her, another opportunity arrived, one that allowed her to keep shining. It was Shortcuts, 1993. Under Robert Altman's direction, Madeleine proved she could dissolve into a complex ensemble where no character was favored for their beauty. For once, Hollywood let her be intricate, and critics immediately understood that her beauty wasn't a limit, but a trap that had confined her from the start of her career. Blink, 1994, and China Moon, 1994, pushed that identity even further. Blink showed she could lead a thriller without relying on a male co-star. China Moon cast her as a femme fatale, but sharper, dangerously intelligent. Yet the farther she went, the more Madeleine realized the system still placed her in roles whose entire existence revolved around the men opposite her. And then, 12 Monkeys, 1995, arrived, and every barrier vanished. Standing alongside Bruce Willis and Brad Pitt, Madeleine not only held her ground, she became the emotional axis around which the story turned. This was the moment she reached true A-list territory, the level where Hollywood no longer judged by beauty, but by the ability to make audiences believe in the madness flickering behind a character's eyes. What remains most memorable about this era isn't just her brilliant achievements, but the quiet awareness that began forming inside Madeleine Stowe about the true nature of Hollywood. What's remarkable is this. Just when Hollywood began competing to cast Madeleine Stowe in its biggest new projects, she chose a path almost no A-list star would dare take. She stepped back in order to love one man. In 1981, on the set of The Gangster Chronicles, Madeleine met Brian Benben, a New York theater actor known for smart, charming, emotionally layered performances. Brian wasn't a box office force, but he possessed something rarer than Hollywood glamour: stillness. And that stillness made Madeleine feel for the first time that she didn't have to become the image someone else designed. Their love didn't begin with candles and wine. It emerged naturally from the quiet affection of two sincere colleagues. A year later, in 1982, they married the way ordinary couples do. No press coverage, no grand declarations. To Madeleine, marriage was the most beautiful secret of her life. As Madeleine gradually stepped away from the spotlight, Brian Ben continued building his own path, becoming a familiar face on American television through Dream On, 1990-1996, the series that earned him a Golden Globe nomination, and later Private Practice. While many Hollywood couples shaped their lives around public expectations, Madeleine and Brian chose to stand outside that system. They didn't use one another to build fame. They used love to build a home. From the outside, people assumed Madeleine sacrificed her career for her family. But in truth, her family didn't take anything from her. It gave her what Hollywood never could: lasting happiness. In Brian's arms, Madeleine realized she no longer had to chase the light because she had finally found a place where light wasn't a prerequisite for existence. Their daughter, May Theodora, was born in 1996, just as Madeleine's career was entering a phase that could have exploded once again. But fate turned in another direction. Her father, engineer Robert Stowe, was diagnosed with progressive multiple sclerosis, and Madeleine did something almost unheard of for a star at her peak. She stopped. Not because she was unemployed, not because she was fading, but because she chose to stand beside a father whose body was failing him day by day. Those months in hospital corridors, watching her father's body betray his memory and his dignity, carved a scar into Madeleine's soul that Hollywood would never see. Years later, when she played Victoria Grayson in Revenge, she wasn't acting, she was Zaye. She was remembering. The coldness, the concealed wounds behind that icy stare. All of it was the emotional legacy left by her father's illness. In 2003, Madeleine and her husband left Los Angeles for a ranch in Fredericksburg, Texas. People said Stowe had retreated from Hollywood. But if one looks closely, perhaps she escaped a system that only wanted to use her beauty as a tool. In Texas, she wasn't a star. She was a wife, a mother, a woman reclaiming her own breath. She practiced taekwondo, judo, tai chi, and kickboxing every morning, not to maintain her figure, but to hold on to a strength Hollywood had once taken from her. In the afternoons, she tended to lavender fields and organic vegetables. At night, she practiced ink painting, quiet strokes acting like one last form of resistance from someone refusing to be defined by her looks. Born into a multicultural family, Madeleine spoke Spanish as if it were her native tongue, not to display cosmopolitan flair, but to preserve something Hollywood never cared about: heritage. It was the one thing no one could take from her. Then, in 2010, when the world was still trembling from the Haiti disaster, Madeleine appeared amid the ruins, holding orphaned children, distributing food, stroking their heads as if trying to heal something she herself had once lost. No cameras, no reporters, no red carpet. But life never stays still simply because someone wants peace. In September 2015, in the middle of the night, Madeleine woke with a jolt at a strange noise inside her Los Angeles home. When she stepped out of her bedroom, naked, she came face to face with a masked man who allegedly pointed a gun at her and demanded, in broken English, "I want all the valuables." He stole antique jewelry worth more than $75,000 and disappeared into the night. Police later arrested the suspect, Walter Canizales, after he broke into another home, still wearing the same Spider-Man mask. According to police records and U.S. media, he faced multiple charges, from armed robbery to burglary and sexual assault. Madeleine was granted a protective order, but the terrifying part wasn't the stolen jewelry. It was the feeling the incident left behind. To the outside world, it was just a burglary. To Madeleine Stowe, it was a brutal reminder of the steep price celebrities pay for privacy. Yet what's interesting is this: no matter what happened, Madeleine never vanished completely. She returned whenever she found a script compelling enough. Her later roles weren't extensions of fame. They were proof of the freedom she had reclaimed from Hollywood. From time to time, she appeared, truly only occasionally, in Playing by Heart, 1998, then returned to the top of the box office with The General's Daughter, 1999, a film that grossed nearly $150 million worldwide. After that came We Were Soldiers, 2002, where she was no longer the beauty before the storm, but the heavy, quiet presence of someone who deeply understood the cost of war and loss. Those returns were like commas, not endings. And then, in 2012, Hollywood called Madeleine Stowe's name again, in a way it never had before, by letting her choose her own rhythm. Revenge exploded into a cultural phenomenon, turning Victoria Grayson into television's new queen of icy elegance. With a salary of over $75,000 per episode and full authority over her schedule, Madeleine was no longer an actress following the industry. The industry followed her. So no, Madeleine Stowe didn't disappear from Hollywood. She simply stepped away from a game whose rules were never written for women who dared to be free. In an era where fame is measured by scandal and noise, Madeleine chose a different kind of victory: autonomy, refusing to let anyone else decide the rest of her life. Hollywood once believed she walked away, but look closely, and perhaps it was Hollywood that lost Madeleine Stowe. Hollywood has stars remembered for their trophies. Others are immortalized by box office records. But Madeleine Stowe leaves behind something far harder to measure: a new way of seeing women on screen. In an era when female beauty was often used as a decorative hook to attract audiences, Madeleine arrived as an exception. She didn't flaunt herself, didn't chase scandal, didn't create noise. Yet in every role, she demonstrated something Hollywood could no longer ignore. A woman doesn't need to please directors or audiences to possess power. She only needs to be herself. The last of the Mohicans forced filmmakers to admit that a female lead could be beautiful, complex, and the emotional core of a story all at once. 12. Monkeys proved that silence could carry weight, enough to guide a narrative without sacrificing depth. By the time Revenge arrived, Madeleine was no longer the beauty before the storm, but the one deciding where the storm would go. There is no museum named after Madeleine Stowe, no fashion empire built on her image. But the moment she chose to say no to roles that worshipped only her appearance, Hollywood was forced to change. Female characters finally began to gain interiority, goals, motives, thoughts, not just bodies. Madeleine Stowe didn't reshape the industry with fame. She reshaped it with boundaries, and those boundaries became a path for countless actresses who came after her. The irony is that people still call Madeleine the star, with no drama. It sounds simple, until you realize that to preserve that silence, she walked away from an extraordinary career many would have sacrificed everything for, but she would not. That is Madeleine Stowe's true legacy, not in the number of red carpet appearances, but in the fact that Hollywood no longer dares to write women as carelessly as it once did. If there is one thing Madeleine Stowe has never lost, it is the ability to turn every phase of her life into a declaration. When many believed she had vanished forever into the quiet hills of Texas, Madeleine suddenly resurfaced somewhere no one expected: Midtown Chickasaw Gardens in Memphis, Tennessee. A historic neighborhood, peaceful yet never detached from the world, much like the life she chooses for herself. Quiet, but not withdrawn. Beside her is still Brian Benben, the man who has walked with Madeleine for more than 4 decades, not as the husband of a movie star, but as an equal partner in a life built on choices, not fate. Their daughter, May Theodora Benben, is now grown, spending most of her time pursuing photography, as if continuing her mother's storytelling through images, only this time, not in front of the camera, but behind it. Financially, Madeleine Stowe does not live on past glory. After nearly 30 years of acting, she holds an estimated net worth of $15 million. During the Revenge era, her salary reached $75,000 per episode, over $1.7 million per season, a number that speaks louder than praise. Hollywood understood that to have Madeleine, they had to pay what she was truly worth. What surprises people most is not where she lives, but how she shows up. In February 2025, Madeleine Stowe stood before the Memphis City Council to oppose a proposal to turn Chickasaw Gardens into a gated community. She didn't rely on her fame, but on reason. These streets belong to the citizens of Memphis. The people paid for them. It was the statement of a citizen who understands both her rights and her responsibilities. Outside of community engagement, her daily life is astonishingly simple for someone once paid millions just to stand before a camera. In the mornings, she practices martial arts to stay grounded and in control. In the afternoons, she walks through her lavender fields and organic garden, where every blossom and sprout teaches her about a peace that is quiet but deeply meaningful. At night, she paints ink wash art, meditative strokes that reflect her truest self. No one knows whether Madeleine Stowe will ever return to the big screen. But one thing is certain: she no longer belongs to Hollywood. Because Madeleine has surpassed the need to be seen. She exists in her own way, not defying time, not seeking the spotlight, yet strong enough to be remembered whenever people speak of stars who chose the hardest path of all, walking away while the world was still trying to hold them back. Hollywood has a cruel habit. Those who walk away are forgotten. But Madeleine Stowe did the opposite. She turned her departure into a legacy. Some stars shine through noise. Madeleine Stowe shines through deliberate absence. Throughout her career, she never tried to become a legend. She simply refused to become a product. And in an industry built on spectacle, saying no at the right moment can echo louder than any applause. Perhaps that is why the story of Madeleine Stowe never truly ends. She was not defeated by scandal. She did not fade with age. She did not beg for roles. She chose herself, and that choice became an enduring declaration. A woman can be beautiful, talented, and still strong enough to leave the stage before the spotlight decides for her. Today, when people look back at Madeleine Stowe's career, they don't count awards, blockbusters, or red carpet appearances. They remember her as proof of a truth that seems simple, yet is never easy to live by. Not only those chosen by Hollywood become stars. Some become stars precisely because they choose not to belong to Hollywood. And from that realization comes another question, not just for Madeleine Stowe, but for all of us, in how we define success. So in the end, what was Madeleine Stowe's choice? Did she leave because she understood Hollywood would never be big enough for a woman who wanted to live fully? Or because her passion was never strong enough to justify the sacrifices others were willing to make? Or is there another possibility, harder to swallow but truer than the rest? Some stars don't disappear because they've lost. They disappear so they won't become what the audience wants, instead of who they truly are. If you were in that moment, choosing between being seen and being yourself, would you stay or would you walk away? Tell us what you believe. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel to continue exploring the emotional journeys, triumphs, and tragedies that shape the Hollywood legends you love.